Either way, it's gonna be fun.
Okay. So yeah. Oh, hello everyone. Galacticstorm here. Welcome to the show. And today we are going to be doing episode 10 of our BashBot Afterthoughts. I think we got one more episode after this. Holy shit. Maybe one or two. I'm not sure. So today Wither is not going to be with us. I think he might just show up in mid doc or commentary, or who knows. So we have one returning guest and we have a new guest. Our returning guest is Evil Toaster and Gumdrops, and our new guest is Neroli and Tenderlove. Welcome, gents. And that lady. I'm sorry, I always get that screwed up.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, awesome, wonderful, fantastic. So, we talked about, I think we've talked about, Toaster, did we talk about, your, yeah, we did talk about your bot, damn it.
Gumdrops was chatted about.
Yeah, alright, thank you.
In the episode I was in.
Awesome.
Nothing has changed from it from the last episode to this one. It still has a spinner, 4 wheels, and a little pole that goes with it.
Awesome, wonderful. Alright, I either forgot or I just don't know. It might be both. It's been a hard week for me. So, Neroli, probably one of the most popular bots, I would assume. It's been here since season 1, and basically, I would say everyone likes it. What were your upgrades from last season to this? I understand that you made this all entirely from Blender. I might be wrong, I might be right, who knows. But what was your upgrades and inspiration for this bot?
So, when it came to designing this version of Tenderlove, I designed it wrong. And the year before that, I designed it wrong as well. Basically, the whole time it's been a thing, I've designed it wrong. The main big thing this year was that I got rid of the lip at the front. Because it was just not doing its job. It kept getting knocked off. It wasn't wedging anything properly. So I was like, right, I'll go to like sloped forks at the side so they could probably deal with horizontal. Main draw of most of the design of the machine. The 4-wheel drive matured a bit. It was just like try and make something that looked good and acted nicely.
Awesome.
And it didn't act nice. It may seem a surprise to people as they see it, and it functions, but using it this season was not fun. The fights were fun, but I didn't realise that I just messed up its shape completely. I don't know if you notice, if you look back at all of its fights, the chassis gets in the way of the forks. Oh. And the forks are supposed to be the main things that wedge in the machine. And it doesn't do that, even slightly. So, I didn't do it right.
Oh.
So, also, I'm just like urgently trying to remember what the last season's Tenderlove looked like because I've completely forgotten.
Yeah.
You see, it was yellow, wedge-shaped, and had a thing in it that went up, down, and all around.
I know that bit.
It's like duck, but yellow, and it has a Goteki sign on it.
Yes. Yeah, Goteki 45, isn't it?
Yeah.
Means...
I love Wipeout. Sue me.
Yeah, I do too.
old Wipeout, new Wipeout.
So to summarize,
Anywho, yeah.
the new Wipeout looks hideous. The phone one, I can go to the dustbin. To summarize, what I tried to do was make a machine that sort of looked more realistic and was like taking away from using it with the wedge at the front, because I just couldn't get the wedge to wedge right. Like, I'm looking back at a Season 3 fight against Slapshot, and it just isn't doing anything. The chassis is just getting in the way, and I thought, oh, that's the fault of the lip. But now I've gotten rid of the lip, I just realised that the whole chassis is at fault. So, I know it's a bit early to be talking about that, but that's kind of the motivation for the design of next season, you know?
Oh, cool. Nice. I would say, yeah, the bot looks very sexy for this season, and especially with this news. Is it me, or is the bot a little wider, or is that just?
I think it's the sides of the bot are thicker, and it's from front to back a bit shorter, so that may give the illusion that it is wider.
Nice. So, let's see. Let's look at the fights. Yes, there's 4 fights instead of 5, just like the last episode. So, this episode's definitely going to be a little bit shorter. So, with this one, we're starting off with, Polis and Tenderlove. You guys fought in, I believe it was it season 2? Or was it season 1?
And both.
Oh, shoot.
I was knocked out of season 1 by Polis in a fight that I wasn't too sure about. It's always a bit of a big-headed thing to say, oh, I should have won that fight, but I wasn't sure about how the judge's decision went. I won't argue it, but I wasn't sure about it.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
No, you go.
I was gonna say, when I first initially watched Bisham Basham season 1, I did initially think he won that, but it was when that came out, and I haven't really watched Gmod stuff before, so I think if I went to rewatch it, my opinion might possibly be different.
I think my opinion might be different. I haven't watched it in a long time, but I just remember at the time I just felt like I'd been a bit shafted. When I fought Polis in season 2. That wasn't the case. He just rinsed me. It was as simple as that. So, What can a man do?
So this time, you had to face him
again. And then Thunderwave fucked me.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
So what was
it was like, yeah, probably going to lose.
What was you went 2-2. It wasn't bad. You had some challenging fights. So in this case, you had to fight Polis again. So what was your strategy when it came to facing Polis for the 3rd time?
I mean, what can you do? You just bully it, you know? And I know that's easier said than done, because it's champion and has been a consistent top finalist in all of the seasons it's been in.
Uh-huh.
But what can you do apart from just get up it? That's just the point of Tenderlove as it is to just get right up close. It's not to be a big spectacular flipper or anything like that. You just have to bully, you just have to bother, and what difference can I do apart from that? That's the biggest thing I can do, is just to bully and bother. But I don't expect that I'll ever win against Kroger. If the only way that I will ever get to the later stages of the tournament again is when I don't have to fight him, as was the case in season 3. I didn't encounter him, therefore I got further. Put simply.
Yeah, agreed.
Bogus to Kryptonite to the yellow.
I think it was an alright fight though.
Yeah, it was a quality match.
What I said to Kroger after the season 2 fight was, I feel that I did better than last time, but I feel you did so much better than last time. And I think the same was the case this time. I feel I did better than my last fight, but I feel he did better as well. So,
You're evolving and
do?
improving to do more and more each time.
It was a fun tangle. I'd need to watch it again because I was like half asleep when I watched it last.
Oh, it was definitely a good fight.
I was
and-
awake when I watched it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And also, we can't forget about the thing where Kroga, the second time ever, did the thing no one has ever done before.
No
Yeah,
one
like,
has ever done
can't
that
believe
before. Yeah.
Yeah, went out of the pit.
Exactly.
Almost went into the pit, but he decided to do a tracker move, and yeah, that was the second time he did it.
What?
No, nobody's done that. Track
No.
hasn't done it. Tracker's never done it.
It hasn't.
Oh.
What do you mean?
I mean,
What do you mean?
not in BashBots. Yeah, you get what I mean. Yeah.
No, it's
yeah,
never
yeah.
done it.
No, not
Never
even
done
on
it.
a match watch. It just hasn't been done before.
No.
Real life
I mean,
on the
I've
server
been here.
in RA2, RR2, Roblox, Besiege bots, Scrap Wars. What are the new games people are repping the robots in? Plane Crazy, Blocks Are Us, Boom Blocks. None of it. None of it. Steven
those.
Spielberg's Boom Blocks. It's never been done in
It's
that.
never been done in that.
Willer's gonna have a field day with
People
this
seem
if
to
he
be
shows
under
up.
the impression that he might have done it. I've been on the Gary's World server since the November of 2017, and not a once have I seen Tracker leap backwards over the pit. That's a all new Kroger maneuver.
Oh boy, we need a new fight. Kroga, Tender Love, and Tracker, please. Thank you. So, now that you
Nah, George won't find me.
oh, so now
Perfect,
that you are out, sadly, what is your what's the future of Tender Love?
Well, I've make the wedges, the forks wedge, basically. Focus less on the chassis wedging. I will say as well that if Tendlove ever wins BashBots, that's it. You will never see it again, basically. I'm not going to be trying to force it to win again and again and again. If it ever wins, that's it. It's stop, finish, done. I'd
Game
probably
over. The
I'd probably either just stop doing robot stuff altogether, or I'd just be a judge or something. Regarding judging, may I quickly talk about something that some of the viewership seems to be a bit split on?
Oh yeah, that's right. Because there were some people in BashBots season 4. People were complaining about the differences between damage and effectiveness, and yeah, I would agree more on effectiveness over damage because it all depends on what your weapon does, like the flipper, the grabber, and yeah. Go on. You can go ahead.
So effectiveness has sort of become the most micro fiddly of criteria. The way that we're defining it is down to each weapon. On a weapon by weapon basis, each weapon. And I think people sort of forget that when they watch the show. Also, I kind of feel that people watching the show just watch each fight the once. And I'd like half watch it, sort of pay attention to the chat. And they just make their own guesswork and assumption on what they think the judge's decision should turn out to be based on that one moment of watching.
Oh yeah.
That's not how judging works. So the reason we implemented effectiveness, which was I don't wish this to sound like I'm banging my own drum, but we first tried it in a tournament that I hosted, which was a flipper tournament. And then we just sort of just vaguely defined it as, whichever robot used their design the best. And it was kind of based both around the shape of the robot and the weapon of the robot, which is a very broad way to define it, and it wasn't worked out well. But it was sort of a surprise to us that Kroger was implementing it into BashBots as quickly as he did. Nothing against Kroger, and I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, but it was a shock, to say the least.
Like it was like brand new in that, and it was still kind of untested.
Yeah.
Also, was it fully resolved and designed yet? For example, being the latest versions of effectiveness aren't exactly the exact same as they were in Bash.
No.
And
I'm not saying that the way that we have it defined now would necessarily have changed the outcome of any of the fights. So anyone hearing this and going, Thunderwave should have won, Firewave should have won. No, they still would have lost. They just weren't doing. Like, they were knocking bits off, but for what they're supposed to be able to do, for how much they've spun up and all that, they should be ripping other robots to bits. And this isn't me knocking on the builders of those robots at all. It's just that they have to run away a lot, which means they're not necessarily being the most effective. Where in the case with Glacier, there are a couple of points where it got like a flurry of like extremely effective flips where Firewave just was completely knocked over and couldn't do anything. It had to self-right and it had to spin up. Like, you have to think of it that way, right? It, like, in effect, Glacier was stopping Firewave from being able to be effective because its weapon wasn't spinning anymore. Hence why, like, it got points at all in that criteria. And, you know, then its control and its aggression carried it over the threshold. There are conditions by which damage is a usable criteria, but the way that certain events called BattleBots do it is poor and used solely to discriminate between machines that they consider to be interesting, i.e. big, flashy, destructive machines such as Tombstone, and machines that they consider to be boring, i.e. more careful, considered machines like Beta. We don't consider that fair. And we would rather run a tournament that was fair. Hence, why we thought up effectiveness in the first place.
also,
It is now better defined.
The fights, I was going to ask, in some of the fights where, especially the Thunderwave one against Ryu, didn't Thunderwave also win effectiveness in that? It did, yes. Didn't win the other two categories.
It did,
which were from previous seasons.
Yeah.
That haven't been changed.
So people seem to be ignoring that as well. I'm glad you brought that up because I can't remember which episode it was, but people were insisting, no, it should have won effectiveness. It should have won effectiveness. And my response to them was, it did. It did win effectiveness.
But it just didn't win control and control and aggression.
Yeah. So, like, at that point, that's on you, you know? People have been put into the mindset that damage is the most essential criteria just because of shows like BattleBot. And I don't deny that spinners can be more entertaining under certain conditions. I mean, everyone wants to see things being knocked apart. But when that becomes all your show is, then it becomes boring, for one. And for two, that doesn't always happen. In BattleBots' case, you're much more likely to find a robot that's a spinner. Take Valkyrie, for instance. They get a hit, they get another hit, the spinner breaks. And because they've put all of their weight and their design into that spinner, and it's broken down, what you have then is a box for the rest of the fight. It cannot push, it can barely drive, it cannot wedge, so it is a box. This is a case with some verts as well. You find Lockjaw exploding fairly frequently. You find Hypershock's spinner failing fairly often. You find Witch Doctor does have some reliability problem. And these are the robots that the... Sorry, go on.
I was thinking about Witch Doctor and the running away tactic. It from the from the semifinal fight from Minotaur and them. Yeah.
I will say, at least with designs more like Hypershock, Lockjaw, and Witch Doctor, they're still boxy shaped and have relative wedge, so they're able to be used as pushing machines. and sometimes are more effective as pushing machines in the case of something like Lockjaw.
Yeah. But yeah,
It's
So,
just,
yeah.
it's just, you know, it's just, it's,
you trying to explain it over and over again, and some people just don't get it.
it is going to be the case that you're just kind of going to have to get used to it, you know, because we want to perpetrate a set of rules in a tournament that gives everyone a chance of winning. And admittedly, like, you know, the 3 seasons prior to this, it's been 2 flippers and a spinner. So far, even when damage was the thing, you find that the rule set as it was just kind of balanced things out. But also, you kind of have to consider that it's the reason why spinners, particularly ice spinners and overhead spinners, aren't doing so well is kind of down to Gary's mod. This is something that we've been discussing as well, is that horizontals can't really do as much as they can in reality. And it's getting to a point in reality, as we've been seeing with Tombstone, where a lot of machines are more capable than before of dealing with a big and indeed the biggest of horizontals.
Yeah.
It's just down to the fact, as I say a lot in discussions like this, where people seem to forget this, that Gary's mod is a first-person shooter. It's a sandbox game, but it's a first-person shooter that, over the course of the history that we talked about in the last episode and later this episode after the next fight, that we've just sort of bodged together to have robots happen in it. On top of that, it's an almost 20-year-old engine that this is being done on.
Oh, yeah.
Physics don't work precisely. The way that physics work in Gary's mod is just somewhat sort of exclusive to just spinners in general. It's taken a lot of effort and development to get verts even to work as well as they work. So it's not our fault that a spinner might not be doing as well in the points as you think it might be. But
Yeah.
to finish this off, so we can finish talking about the episode, I would beg anyone who's watching this to just watch the fights again and think of it in a point of view where we're trying to make things fair for everyone, and from the point of view that Gary's mod is not designed to have robot fighting done in it.
Yeah.
Just remember that.
Oh, yes. So,
It did.
what was your idea just trying to go after Panther? Because Panther has...
I knew I was at the disadvantage, being he was the better driver, he had the more durable bot, he had the more consistent way of controlling me, and I believe in almost any other fight, he probably would have won that.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that also describes most of my fights this season.
Oh, yeah.
And I just kind of got lucky. It was just really a case of... At the time, I really didn't know how to fight verts that well. I still don't. I still struggle with it. And my main thing with Gumdra fighting verts was hitting them in a way where I'm either bouncing them back from the top of their wedge or hitting their support.
Or hitting
Panther has neither of those things. It was something like Tranquilizer. Its wedge, Boost will design it so his wedge has a little fin at the top, a guard, to stop people from hitting the support.
Uh-huh.
But horizontal, if you bounce up, you could hit that itself. And that will often bounce them back in some way. Or get a nice weapon-to-weapon hit where both bots will be bouncing. And because I have a separate individual self-rider, I can more consistently, more reliably get back up to my goals before someone that has to rely on bouncing around can, and take control of that. However, Panther's quite well designed. In a lot of ways, so there isn't really a lot to do against it with a horizontal, outside of just outdriving a really good driver.
Or outsmarting
In a
him
system
in this
where,
case.
you know... Yeah.
Yeah.
I do feel bad for that.
Yeah.
But...
That wasn't his first screw-up.
It was just a case of... I got
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was killing you, and then you did a surprise trick move, and I guess he drove into it. I'm not sure what happened, but this wasn't his
Just
first.
didn't realize it was down.
I don't know.
He just didn't
This
realize
wasn't
it was going
it
down.
wasn't his very.
Like,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Uh,
it was a case of he didn't realize the pit went down. If
oh,
from memory, serve me
oh,
correct. It was just like a bit of tunnel vision, trying to focus on me.
oh. It wasn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
I do
wasn't.
feel quite bad for him,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
and
I will admit this. Sorry if I'm keeping.
no,
Sorry if
it's
I'm
okay. I
over
was gonna.
talking you, but Panther's my personal favorite Gmod.
Oh,
So like, it was nice fighting him. Shame about the fight.
oh. You did. You went up to the quarterfinals with that fight. It wasn't the first time he did a screw up. In last season, he screwed himself over by latching onto like the side of the wall, and he got counted out by Cyberstorm. It was what was it in the top 32? So yeah, I guess it came back to haunt him in some way, some shape, some form.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, looking at it, if I'm correct, Cyberstorm won on the fight Polus, correct? The world's kind of trying to stop him from doing that.
yeah. Uh, I
Not the world, Kroga. He's rigging the whole thing.
yeah, pretty much. Um, or I'm probably gonna die from that. But anything else? I don't have anything else to say about that fight. It was more dominant on the Kyo's part, or whatever the hell he's pronounced. I'm sorry.
It is Kia, yeah.
Yeah, KO. Okay, KO. But he
Kia.
tried to murder
Yes.
you, and it failed.
Panther is an unpredictable machine. And it is often the case that it's just very bouncy. And it just goes everywhere. And Fred knows that. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to do. I mean, he's decided to have a super interesting, I don't want to say gimmick, but a super interesting design for his machine. And just by the very nature of it, it just becomes unstable. The similar scene was seen with Machine Twinser, but to a quite a bit more substantial degree. People love Panther, and for good reason. It's exciting. It's quite tightly designed this year. It's quite small in comparison to last year, and I quite like it. But it does feel that Fred needs to work out why it's so unstable. I mean, I'm sure he knows, but trying to get it to be less unstable would be good.
Yeah, I can understand why he wants to make this design because tanks. But oh, okay. Now that we have that taken care of, let's talk about fight number 3. That one being Wishbone Cosmo. Wishbone Cosmo. If Wither was here, he'd be talking a lot about it. But basically, from what he told me, it was the nightmare scenario that he didn't want. Because Cosmo is, well-known vert, boring bot, likes to kill itself, all that fun stuff. No, not really. It's just more of a dominating bot. And for this fight, he was saying a little bit like he was anxious for this one because he thought, it could be eliminated. But no, he had to face him. But this fight was more in particular because he was able to, I would say, outreach him, if that's the word I would say, but he was able to get in a wider angles and that and was able to take him on more. Yeah, Cosmo gave him a few hits, but yeah, he tossed him out of the arena in like a minute and a half. I'm not sure. I think it was like a minute. But yeah, it was a surprise for everyone, I would guess.
It was a terrible shame, and part of the reason why Cosmo went out, if I recall, was down to business's laptop and his internet connection. And that may sound like an excuse, but when business did the fight, he was just sort of shoved into it quickish. And this had the effect that he didn't have the best control over Cosmo that he might well have liked. And he did observe afterwards that he was upset that he couldn't have another chance because he didn't feel that he'd lost in a proper way. He'd lost more down to his circumstances, which I can agree with. It has happened in the past, and there is evidence of just business's internet connection arbitrarily dropping out for no reason.
Yeah.
Wishbone is, of course, a very good machine. It is a very good machine. Wither likes to pretend that it isn't a good machine, and always acts surprised when it does anything good, but he's not telling the entire truth in that scenario. When he fights, and he has fought with it a lot, he just sort of rubs his face on the other robot, and oftentimes it works. He has pretended that it's a very unstable, a very underperformative machine, but it really isn't. So, I think Cosmo did have a good chance of beating it. And, the Cosmo bad meme is long since old. Get over yourselves. But it was just sort of a rough situation, and no one wants to lose like that, but it's just a pity that he did, sadly.
I did not know about that. It seems like when it comes to Cosmo, season 3 was not an excuse, but there was always something wrong within season 1 or season 2, and then with this one, it was what would you say? It was another excuse, but it wasn't based on his part. It was based on another one, or not another part, but from his thing. And
it's not so much like how to put it. It's a genuine reason that he is unhappy with how he lost out of the competition. But especially because so many people like to hate on business for no good reason. People would just say, "Oh yeah, well of course he's going to say that he lost. It's his prerogative to say that." That's not a fair conclusion to come to. And I would hope that anyone who might be listening to this just gives business a break.
He was runner-up, so
he did very, very well in season 3. Yeah, he did very well. He was on form. His driving was good. I wouldn't have wanted to have fought him, but we did do a fight afterwards, and he said, "Yeah, I probably would have won if we did, but I think it's just been nice." He's always, he's fun driving. It's good to see him sticking to his robot despite the amount that people whinge about it. But one thing that we're not so sure of is his fight against Huge, which we do think that the setup he chose was inoptimal, to say the least.
Very questionable.
But it had a very interesting outcome. So
yes,
we've got that going for it, I guess.
Oh yes. So the last fight was going to be between Ellie and Catch and Sparks. To all those who don't know their history, and I don't blame them, Sparks fought Catch in season 1. I think it was in the qualifiers, and absolutely massacred it. This one was a Uno reverse card. We were expecting Catch to get demolished by not Huge, Sparks. Sparks basically became a chew toy. I wouldn't say chew toy, but a fly toy by this case for Catch. Catch is probably, yes. I would say for Catch, it's probably the best redeemable bot out of all the originals, because It went 3-1 in the season, and now it won against Sparks, which it didn't do in the first season. In the second season, it didn't do well. Third season, it did okay, or average. I don't know, but this one a hell of a lot better.
It didn't do bad in the third season. It was like a quality spot, just it got quite a bad matchup in the round of robots.
Yeah.
Oh,
I would say that Catch is like most improved. If we had a award for that,
yeah.
not that the previous catches were bad; they were beautifully designed. They looked wonderful, and Ellie tried her best to control them, and she controlled well. It's just that it was like a mix of like Ellie was still fairly new when the first season was about. She was, out of the game a bit around like the second season. Third season she did all right, but this season she built a very nice looking but very simple, very effective, beefy wedge, very powerful front hinge, and she just drove so well. Like referring to my fight against her, it was so hard. Like, I would say it was more hard at times to get under her than it was against Polis. Because Polis is sort of, it has a longness to it, there's occasions where I can get under it and, just have a nibble at it, But Catch wasn't like that a lot of the time. It was tough to get under Catch.
Uh-huh.
And she used that to her advantage beautifully. I was personally not that surprised that this fight turned out the way it did. Because of how well she'd done against other machines,
Yeah, I was pretty surprised. I mean, once I saw 3-1, I'm like, and then I saw the catch or the fight, and then before the fight, I thought maybe Sparks if it does well, but no, it surprised me again, and I think, yeah, Catch is another name that could definitely go up there now. So it definitely redeemed. She definitely redeemed herself. Sorry, you can go ahead now.
I'll also say, not to credit Catch's win or to crap on Jag a bit, I'll say that Sparks itself is kind of dating. It does need a bit of an update and reason. It's still a good robot, and Jag does drive it quite well to keep doing well for horizontal in a Gmod's current state. But yeah, I'll also say Sparks probably isn't the best modern horizontal, at least in BashBots. I wouldn't say who is, but yeah.
I just kind of think
I'm
that
not trying to discredit it, but it's a case of how it's doing damage. It isn't a bad method or idea. It's just not something you want to do to get consistent wins.
I'm thinking that can't remember if this is like Stum or anything, but I think Jake might be considering doing something else at some point. Because he's had his win with Sparks, and people know Sparks, people love Sparks. I think he just wants to try with something else at some point soon. Because, Sparks did well in this season, but, it had a very close judge's decision, and it hasn't done, a huge amount of, all-out destruction. It's taken some very, choice hits. It got, the wedge off, and the
Twins fight.
Machine, it got spinner off on the other, but those were close to the end of the fight, and, I see nothing wrong with a spinner that nibbles, but, I just think he wants to try something else, and I wouldn't blame him if he did.
Maybe he did have I would say a tough schedule. I would say maybe
he did, yes.
Because
also with a spinner that nibbles, your design needs to easily be able to do other things if you're not nibbling. While Sparks does have a wedge, it's a case of it's around the backside of it. And it's a different turning wheelbase setup if he wants to go and be aggressive with the wedge. Nibblers typically work better with more conventional design. Not conventional. I don't want to say conventional. Boxy designs, I want to say. Where they're more consistently able to push and just be aggressive no matter how they are. With Sparks, it still has to be passive to spin up, and it still has the full spin up issues where it can't really stay up to speed for the full match.
Uh-huh.
And it also doesn't have an easy way to stay aggressive as well, considering its design is a bit more akin to sort of like Tombs of a large offset outreach horizontal, where if it's getting close quarters, it's either doing big hits or doing nothing.
Yeah. It has to hit like a certain spot too, which doesn't really help in cases, right? Or it could be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm still pretty new to this crap. But
The
yeah.
horizontals, they do damage all around, but getting catches and all is quite important. And I want to say, despite how impressively well Sparks is driven,
Yeah.
to work as a nibbler, it needs to be a bit more maneuverable.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you're really going to get that with a two-wheel drive design.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bloody good machine.
Yeah.
But you know, it's been there from like right at the beginning. It's like one of like a when you look at like the earliest series of Robot Wars, and then you look at Series 3, the robots that do well are the robots that design a couple of series ahead, if that makes sense. So, you know, Firestorm worked well into the later years, Chaos 2 worked well into the later years, Hypnodisc did. You got a lot of machines like that who it felt like they knew what was coming in years to come, and that's why they did so well in earlier years. Sparks was one of the machines right from the beginning that also kind of did that, if that makes sense. So it makes sense why it's stayed good, but it's just an interesting situation where you know a couple of other machines that have been there from the beginning and doing well for quite a while, my own machine included. Just the quality, the build quality of a lot of machines has just shot up,
Yeah.
which is a damn surprise for one.
Yeah.
But for two, it's a good challenge. You can't stagnate.
Uh-huh.
And I think next season, from seeing how some machines did this season, you get a lot of people who will be trying something new or will be like sprucing up their design a great deal. You know.
Yeah. I would agree. Definitely there's
It was a damn exciting fight though. It
Yeah.
was so interesting to see, and it was so good to see Ellie do well after, you know, the tough years that she's had in the past.
I was happy to see her win. Tough luck for Janitag. It did have a good season. Maybe not the. He had a tough road, but you know he did well, and hopefully we get to see both of them more in the future. I think that's it. I don't know if you guys have any final words, or final thoughts.
Whether it's gone, whether it's dead, he's never set to return.
Okay, cool.
I was just going to say, as I've said before in comments, this was a tough season to film, and I imagine it was tougher on Kroger.
Yeah.
But I was basically like the closest thing that you could get to a producer. I recorded a lot of the slow motion shots. That's why they're a bit rubbish. And I liaised with a lot of the competitors. I set up a lot of fights. I talked to people in the booths to make sure that everything was, you know, calm. Compared to like season 3, where we had like a lot of people getting quite ragey in the booths, a lot of people getting quite sad in the booths. But in this year, it was just really tough. There was a lot of negative attitude amongst a lot of the competitors.
Yeah.
And it rubbed off on all of us.
Yeah, I would.
It wasn't fun. And I'm hoping that the next season will be more fun, and we're taking more steps to make sure that people... we can't force people not to take it seriously, but our standards of quality is not just going to be based on robots. It's going to be based on people's attitude as well, I feel.
Yeah.
And if people can't show a good attitude, then I don't think they should be allowed to compete, because at the end of the day, it's supposed to be for fun, and that's not going to happen if you're going to get like over dramatic about the fact that you're not winning virtual battle bots. That's not what we're here for. We're here to put on a good show, and we're here to have fun.
Yeah, agreed.
It's not about you. It's not about the individual, proving themselves to be the biggest of big men. Like, who cares about that?
Yeah.
It's a virtual robot fighting thing. We're just there for fun, and if you can't deal with that, then it's not the tournament for you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So with that out of the way, I'd like to thank you both for coming on, and
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So thank you all very much for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and be sure to like my Facebook page down below, and along with the others. Galacticstorm saying thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.